Coldplay could conceivably occupy their undeniable niche in British rock for many years to come. And their success has come down to their refreshingly sincere, honest and emotional songs, with no fake rhetoric or pseudo-angst.
They wanted to be big. I mean, there are a lot of people that come in here that sort of like that want to be big. They seem to have that determination about them to sort of like give it their very, very best shot, you know, because often we'll do a recording, you know, you'll walk away with a CD, you won't hear from people again. You know really that they've given it 3 weeks and, you know, it's gone by the by, but they didn't do that, you know, they were always asking questions, always trying to get information about how do we do this, how do we do that, you know, to the point where we were actually sitting down having a chinwag about after a particular overdubbing session, and they were saying, well, like, how do we make it in the music business? You know, how do you do this kind of stuff? You know? And all we could really tell them at the time was sort of like, well, just keep on doing what you're doing.
At the time, particularly in London, garage was huge, the urban scene was huge, and it was so nice to hear guitars again, and guitars used in such an intelligent way, and to have somebody really writing from the bottom of their heart, which is what Chris Martin does. And I think the fact that they're not an over-styled band, they're a relatively normal band with 4 guys that you wouldn't, if you bumped into them in the street, you wouldn't imagine they're in a band to save their lives. And they just came up with these great songs. And I think the writing and the songs and the depth of feeling is what this band's about. And at the time, that's what the music industry was really lacking. Now we have this huge rock revival in this country. Rock is back, indie is king again, and everyone said it was dead. And I think Coldplay have a huge part to play in that resurgence, and thank God, because it's nice to hear proper songs on the radio.
Coldplay have always been there, the 4 of them. They don't shy away from, you know, doing, in the beginning, radio session, in-store appearances, meeting, greeting disc jockeys, fans, being very gracious to everyone and sort of representing Britain in a very positive manner. In the same way the Beatles used to do it, or, you know, in a different way Pink Floyd have also done it. And I think you might have to do with the sort of middle-class upbringing of, you know, most of the members. They're certainly well-balanced people, and, you know, they're quite driven, and they want to take their music around the world.
I think the American success is that it's a very kind of media society, and I think that they're absolutely delighted that Chris is kind of associated in this such a glamorous Hollywood style, and I think that's really helped them in the States personally. But at the end of the day, people have to like listening to the music, and everybody seems to like it. So.
Chris Martin is not massively comfortable with being a rock icon, which he's turning into. And yet he fell for a Hollywood actress. And I find that fascinating. It's almost like you would have expected him to like delete her phone number because I can't go there. You know, I really like this lady, but I can't get involved because it's everything that he's trying to avoid. But clearly, they're very close, and he couldn't help himself, and they got on really well. She was at the concerts very early on, and I found that whole love story really within Coldplay was just a complete contradiction of what you'd expect. The 2002 Grammy for Best Alternative Rock Act is without a doubt their biggest critical acclaim. They've had heavy coverage in Rolling Stone, which carries a lot of weight within the US record industry. That's what US record store buyers and radio programmers look to. That's like one of the big magazines for them to look to. And because they've been championed by that magazine, that's helped. But undoubtedly a Grammy takes one to a completely different level altogether. The reason they've sold so many records is they've captured what I call the wallpaper crowd, which is people who buy 3 CDs a year. They buy Craig David, Simply Red and Coldplay. They don't know anything about the band except that one of them goes out with a film star they think they've seen in OK magazine, but they love stick it in the car and drive their 40 miles to work or whatever. And that's a huge market. That's why Simply Red sell a lot of albums and people like the Beautiful South. But where Coldplay have really struck gold in this country is they also have obsessives within the NME 18 to 30 crowd who will get down the front of their show, who will buy the T-shirt, you know, buy the book, buy everything about them. And that's quite an unusual mixture, really. And it does sell books, it sells T-shirts, and I find that quite a strange facet to the band in the sense that they're not overtly rock and rollers. They're quite happy to say we don't go out and get bladdered after shows and do things they shouldn't do in trash hotel rooms. But they still seem to be able to attract quite a committed fan base.
Chris Martin is a gifted songwriter and seems to have the knack of stumbling upon subtle, hook-laden choruses that give each song colour and atmosphere. Martin's voice is lovelorn, assured and agile.
I think I would put them in the top 5 of UK bands of the last 10 years, alongside Radiohead, alongside The Prodigy, Oasis. You know, that's the sort of level they're at, and I think they are beyond, by a country mile, beyond bands like Travis, because they've got the global appeal. You know, so many times you read about bands cracking America in the music press, and actually when you read it, they've gone in at number 85. Well, that's not cracking America. Top 5 Billboard is cracking America. The stadium shows is cracking America. Coldplay have already done that. What Coldplay need to do is make sure that next album, the 3rd album, is also a top Billboard album.
Been rumours that Chris Martin just said, right, I don't want this pressure of this 3rd album, and we're going to take a year, 2 years off and come back with something. And to be honest with you, I'd quite like to see him do that. I'd quite like to see how he deals with this relationship with the Hollywood A-lister. Are they going to get married? Are they not going to get married? Because if he does get married, it's going to change his outlook on things. He's no longer going to be the guy who can't pull. I mean, he's the guy who can't pull in these first 2 albums, and he's going out with Gwyneth Paltrow. So obviously the lyrics from the next album are going to be different. But I think, as he rightly said and has in interviews, they've got to a stage where there's so many expectations. Everyone is second guessing what they're going to do next. And to be honest, they don't need the money anymore. They can go away, kind of redefine the band, see what they stand for now, and come back with something amazing. I mean, normally it's the 2nd album that's supposed to be the difficult 2nd album. This is going to be the difficult 3rd album, because these 2 have just gone so stellar. And I think that would be the best thing to do. Go hide away in America, or go hide away in Iceland or something, and come back and really surprise us.
They said to me when I was kind of hanging out with them and stuff that it was always only ever going to be 2 albums, and then that was the end of the band. And this was like a couple of years ago, so I've no idea how they feel about that nowadays. But I wouldn't be surprised if they kind of like called it a day after this record. But you know.
I think that they there's a fair chance that they will have to have a really good sit down and a discussion about how they feel as a band. Purely because it's...
Well, they've achieved so much for those first 2 records, it's kind of like they've got to do something else.
And I know they don't seem like the kind of people that are going to want to do a damn squib of a record. I think they're going to want to either do something absolutely stunning, or they might not do it. So
you see a direction change or nothing for a while, or something like that.
Because let's face it, they're not short of a few bob, so I think they'll probably survive.
I was pleased with Rush Your Blood to the Head to see the amount of experimentation, and there was a degree of the epic in that album that was missing on the first album. And if they can take that on from there, then I think the world is their oyster.
Brazenly tuneful, their swirl of delicate, powerful melodies, stately piano motifs and show-stopping anthems could hardly have been more at odds with the late 1990s. Yet they have tapped into something and cast themselves as the new face of popular music.
It's time.